G'day! Today I'm going to show you how I suspended my EV charging cable from the ceiling of my garage. I did this just to get the cable out of the way and off the floor as a tripping hazard. I watched a number of YouTube videos from other people who'd undertaken similar projects, and I borrowed some great ideas from them. But ultimately I didn't want to rely just on spring balancers alone and opted for a cable retractor system. There are links to all the products I used in the description below. Just keep in mind they are affiliate links, so if you do click on those and then subsequently purchase something, I will earn a small commission from those purchases. It's a pretty long video, so I've bookmarked each pertinent step, so feel free to jump through just to the parts that are of relevance to you, and I really hope you get some value out of this. Thanks for watching. So here's the plan. I park my EV here. Charging port. I've got a level 2 charger over here wall mounted. I want to run the cord up from there, suspend it from this beam, and then have it come down just above the charging port on that beam where I can reach across and plug it in. This is the generic overhead EV charging cable retractor unit from Temu. Cost me about 75 Canadian dollars versus 200 for the one on Amazon. It's fairly solid, made of steel, I presume. And the idea is you mount this unit either on the ceiling or at some overhead point. You put the charging cable in this housing, and then when you're ready to charge, you pull down on the cable and it locks into position, leaving slack in the cable, so there's no pulling back up. And when you're done, you just give it a little tug and it retracts back in. Like I said, it's pretty solid. Seems to have fairly fluid movement, and next step is to install it. Righto, these are all the bits and pieces I've picked up for my overhead cable, EV charging cable suspension project. I've got 2 spring balancers. You could probably get away with just one. I'm going to be using those to suspend the cable from above. I've got these eye lag bolts. I'm going to secure those into the beam that I showed you earlier, and then attached to that will be a shackle on each one, and then attached to each shackle will be a spring balancer, so they're all secured with some strength from above. I've got this 3/4 inch conduit, and the idea is I'm going to cut that down the middle and then wrap it around the EV charging cable, just so when I suspend it from above, it's going to have, that load will be evened out over the length of the conduit section, just so it doesn't put stress on any particular spot of the cable. I've also got obviously the cable suspension retractor, and I've got these hose clamps. You could use zip ties or something, but I had these, so I thought, why not use them? When I cut the conduit and wrap it around the cable, after that's done, I plan to put these hose clamps on just around the conduit, and then using the tool just to crimp them tight and just to keep the conduit secure in place around the cable. Okay, so I'm just going to cut the conduit into 2 sections. I'm going to take off the straight section first, and then I'm going to cut 2 equal parts here where it's slightly curved. And the idea is that the cable, when it's suspended, it's going to have a natural tendency to sag, and I just want to go with that and suspend it using the slight curve in the conduit. If I had easy access to a 3D printer, I wouldn't need to do this because I just print up like a plastic saddle to hold the cable without putting any strain on any particular section. But seeing as I don't have access to one, this is just an easy alternative. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, good enough. So here's what I got in mind with my newly cut piece of conduit. Once the cable is up high, I plan on putting the cable inside those two halves, like so, and then the other piece, and then putting the hose clamp around it, just so it's suspended by that whole section of conduit rather than just suspending it in one particular spot, just so the load is evened out a bit better. Okay, I'm just going to attach the first eye bolt, the lag bolt. All right, that's not going anywhere. Next I've got the shackle and the spring balancer. So that's just going to sit like that, and then the cable will be suspended from the spring balancer. I'm just going to install the second spring balancer. I've got to add, it doesn't really matter how high you put it, because the spring balancer has an adjustment. So at the back, if you loosen it off, there'll be more slack in the cable so it can hang lower. So in the case of the light here, I'm still going to mount it fairly high and then just adjust the slack in the cable to put it where I want to put it. Voila! Next, I'm going to install the cable retractor. I'm going to pre-drill the first hole and then take it from there. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is install the charging connector into the housing from the cable retractor. I should also add that this thing has an adjustment. This little black rubber stopper, if you pull that back, there is a little adjuster head here with an Allen key. It came with the retractor, and that can be set higher up. So that'll be the last adjustment I make once I figure out what height I want the, I guess the charging connector to be at when I plug in. So I'm just going to plug in the, install the charging head into this little thing here. It doesn't have to be too final yet. I just want to do this so I can figure out how much cable I need and where I need the slack in the cable and so forth. So I'm just going to work backwards from that and then start figuring out how much cable I need. The next thing I'm going to do is figure out where to put the saddle clamps on the cable while it's hung up overhead. To do that, I'm going to use a couple of zip ties just to temporarily hold it in place from each spring balancer. And then once I got the cable clamp position figured out, then I'll install those little saddle clamps that I made out of Conduit. So the first thing I'm going to do is just figure out where the cable is going to be with the retractor, just so there's no tension on the cable while it's plugged in. So if I just pull around this, get it plugged in. I just want a little bit of slack on the line so it's just not pulling on it in any fashion, in any way at all. Next thing, I'm going to go up here with a zip tie. And just through the spring balancer. And again, this is just temporary to figure out where the clamps are going to go. So, just going to add a little bit more tension to this. Probably don't need quite so much cable there. Probably around there, that'll work. Get a bit more tension on this. That seems reasonable. That seems pretty good. Any excess cable I can deal with at this end. I just don't want too much tension on any particular point. Add a little bit more tension to this spring balancer here. That's pretty good. Again, just making sure there's no tension on where the cable plugs into the vehicle. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. That'll do it. After I got all this in place, I've since determined that big looper cable here, I mean, it's kind of inevitable to have it, but what I would like to do is actually have it a little bit further back in the garage, closer to the vehicle. That way it's sort of out of the way of us walking in the garage. So what I'm going to have to do is move that spring balancer just to the other side of this light. So it's going to be close to the retractor, but I think that'll work out better in the long run. Okay, this is what I kind of settled on. I moved that second spring balancer from this side of the light to this side. I'm not entirely happy with the proximity to those electrical wires. I'll probably either wrap them in conduit or do something just to make it so that they're not going to be up against one another. But other than that, the loop is now further away from our thoroughfare, which is nice, and I'm happy with that. So that's where it's going to stay. Okay, I'm just going to replace the zip tie now with these saddle clamps. For the hose clamps to go around the saddle clamps, I had to open them right up, obviously, to get it around the cable. And then once they're in place, using the pincer tool, you sort of pull those two sides together, and that narrows the diameter of the clamp, making a good fit against the plastic. That's one. That's two. It's not going anywhere. Actually, I'll just hang that up again for now. Do the other one, and then I'll work on a permanent solution to fasten them to the spring balancers. Same again on this one. That's good. Beauty. At the top of each of the hose clamps, there's a little ring area that what I'm going to do is put some wire through, just like so, and the other hose clamp will be about here, and I'm just going to loop it back and forth, just so that it has something to secure the clamp off the spring balancer to. I figured wire to be stronger than zip ties, so that's what I've decided to go with. So the problem with these little clamps I was telling you about, this ring, once it's all clamped together, there's a little depression at the top which creates a like an impediment to getting the wire through. So I've just got to use a little screwdriver and just pop it up slightly, just so there's a bit of room so I can feed the wire through. Okay, so I already opened up the openings at the top of the hose clamp with a little screwdriver. Stubborn. There we go. Not a lot of room to work with in there, but that'll do. Yeah, and this is just to relieve strain on the cable, so I'm not too concerned about aesthetics. It's going to be out of sight for the most part above everyone anyway. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is use a 1/2 inch conduit clamp. It's a little bit big for the cable, but it'll be fine. I'm just going to secure it probably just up here, just to keep the cable out of the way, and make a nice clean run over to the cable retractor. Another thing that I decided to do was just use a bit of 3/4 inch conduit in the same fashion that I made those saddle clamps with, just to extend the stress of the hanging, I guess, of the EV cable or extend the load bearing capability of this clamp. Next step, I've got to adjust this one now just to the height that I want for the extractor. So I'm thinking probably about here. So I'm just going to undo that one, move it up to the top, and that way when I am finished with the cable and let it go, it's not going to go any higher than it is currently out there. Okay, so I just loosen off that Allen key adjuster set screw, move it up to where I want it, which will be basically there. Tighten up the set screw. And then pull down the stop. So now, that's the new normal. And that's pretty much it, folks. Comes time to charge. I just pull down on the clamp. That's it. No tension. Again, I do have to get that cable away from the electrical wires. They're not touching there. There's about 1/2 inch of clearance, but still a bit close.